Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another game review. To this date, number 20 on the road to 2000 ELO. So, on this game, I was playing as white, and my opponent was playing as black. Let's see what happened. It was a very quick game, also. Like, I usually play fast games. I don't usually play fast games, the games that have more like 50 moves, but this was very quick. So, let's check it out and see what happened. I first started with my opening, the Queen's Pawn opening, looking to play the accelerated London system. Then my opponent responded with the Queen's opening 2 to d5. Then I'll continue with my London system, playing bishop to f4. This is the accelerated one, than to playing the knight one here to. This is the Zook thought variation, playing the knight to f3, but I prefer playing the bishop to f4. Then my opponent responded with knight to c6. Then I continue with my London system, playing pawn to e3. Then my opponent played knight to f6. Then I played knight to f6. This is called the Chigorin variation of the London system. It's kind of complete right now. The opening is complete. Not the entire opening, like the London system is complete right now. The opening is not complete because the rooks have not connected and have not castled. So let's continue. My opponent played h6, which is a very weird move. But let's continue. Maybe was trying to cover the square on g5 so I don't put my bishop and kind of pin the knight to the queen in the future moves. So I played pawn to c4. Then my opponent played bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen. Then I played bishop to e2 and pinning my queen. Then my opponent accepted the pawn that was given earlier. Then I accepted back with the bishop, going back to pin my queen again. So I pinned myself again. Then my opponent played pawn to e6. I think the reason of playing that pawn on h6 was to cover the bishop from pinning the knight to the queen. That's the reason why that move was played earlier. But let's continue. That doesn't really matter that much, or doesn't affect the game that much. So I played pawn to h3, attacking the bishop, asking questions. Is the bishop here to take the knight, or is just there to pin the knight to the queen? Guess it's just there to pin. Played bishop to h5. I ignored the bishop because not really threatening anything. It is threatening, but not that much. It does not affect me that much. So I pinned the knight to the king with bishop to b5. Then my opponent played bishop to b4 with a check. There are only two options here, is to move the king or to cover it with the knight. The best option is to cover it with the knight, because if I move the king, I'm losing my castling rights. So I have to keep that for future moves or future options. Let's continue. Then I played knight to c3. Kind of pinning myself but covering the check. That was my opponent's idea of, after I covered the check, I was going to play knight to e4, but the best move here was to play knight to d5. That was the best move. This is kind of inaccurate, playing knight to e4. Then I played queen to d3, which is also an inaccuracy. The best move here was to play queen to a4. Then when my opponent captures the knight, looking for me to capture back with a pawn, I ignore that. Then I capture the knight on c6 with a check. Then my opponent will capture back with the pawn. Then I capture back with the queen with a check. Then the king has to move because there's no other piece. The only piece that can cover that is the queen. But I don't think my opponent will really want to lose the queen at this stage. Probably was going to move the king here. And then I'll take now the fork is kind of cancelled because the queen protects the pawn right now. So yeah, that was the idea. That's why the computer suggested me to play in that way. So but let's continue. Let's go back to our position. I played queen to d3. My opponent of course captured, then I captured pawn. Captured back with a pawn. Now the pawn is protected with the king. Can't really be captured, or the fork can't be allowed. Then my opponent captured my knight, took back with a pawn, then played bishop to d6 looking for the exchange. But I ignored that because I wanted to fix my pawn structure. Played bishop to g3 looking to fix my pawn structure. If the bishop accepts, the bishop here can accept back with the pawn, then my pawn structure is kind of fixed. That was the idea of playing bishop there. But the best one was to take the bishop. Let's continue. My opponent castled the king side. Then I played knight to g1, looking for that discovered attack there after moving the bishop, or if the bishop is captured. Then my opponent played pawn to a6, attacking my bishop. Played to bishop to a4, and continue attacking my bishop. Don't really know why my opponent really attacked me like that, because the bishop is just threatening to take the knight. But the knight can move because it's not pinned. So I don't really know why. But I played bishop to c2, looking for this checkmate. The only move here is to play pawn to f5. That's the only move that works. But my opponent blundered and play pawn to g6, which is a huge blunder, which leads to checkmate. I just play here. I take the bishop on d6. After the idea of playing bishop to d6 is after the bishop is captured by the queen. Now it's mating 7 moves. I just continue and play knight to g6 with a check. Then the only move here is to move the king, because if you play any other move, maybe the only move that works here is to move the king to this position. It's still mating 6, of course. Then I'll capture here with the rook, with the discovered check. Then my opponent will have to move maybe here. That's mating 1, but the best move here was to play here to cover the check, and I'll win the queen. Then it will be, the game will continue, but I'll still be winning. But my opponent didn't really think that much, because the game was technically over this position after taking it, took back with the pawn. This is actually a brilliant move, sacrificing my rook for a checkmate after taking his mate into a check. And checkmate, that's how the game ended. Doesn't really bit of a competitive game, but the opening was kind of shaky. Doesn't really shaky, but it was kind of on both sides. But the middle game was brilliant. Of course, we didn't get to the end game because the game ended in the middle game. So that's how the game played out. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment, like, share. Until we see each other again. Bye bye.